Welcome to Things You Don't Know, where history and legend meet under one roof, or in this case, one castle tower.
Today, we're going to go to Loveland, Ohio. I understand, Dr. Weaver, that you lived in Loveland for a few years. It's an amazing place where a stone castle rises from the riverbank and where strange frog-like beings have been reported for decades.
I did live in Loveland for a few years. It's a small town north of Cincinnati. It's a small town, but no backwoods place at all. Today, we're going to look at two mysteries in this one small town. The Loveland Castle, also known as Château Laroche, and the legendary Frogman. It is interesting that many mysteries tend to come in groups centered around the same geographic area. Could there be some outside influence for this, or is it a case of people just kind of building on myths? Really, that's for our listeners to decide.
Imagine Ohio in the 1920s. The little Miami River winds through a farmland and forest, and one man, Harry Andrews, a World War I medic, decides, I'm not entirely sure why, that he's going to build a medieval castle by hand.
Nobody is 100% sure why he decided to do it, but he did it with buckets of river rock, homemade concrete, sheer determination. Harry spends decades piecing together towers, walls, battlements, and even a dungeon. The end product is both startling and beautiful, looking like it belongs in medieval Europe rather than a town near the bustling city of Cincinnati. The people in Loveland are generally pretty well educated, friendly, and not so prone to believing in myths. Despite these two legends happening, it is true that Chateau Laroche and the legendary Frogmen are often they're just exceptions to this idea that they're not usually into that. Now, before we get back to the stunning castle, I just got to say, this castle, even though it is on the outside, it appears to be like a medieval castle, Dr. Deneen, the interior of it are replete with strange pathways, strange corridors, strange winding stairs, uh, and grand rooms. There's a room with a long table. Makes you kind of think of the round table, except it's rectangular. And all these nightly things.
I mean, while I've certainly seen pictures of the outside, I've not been inside at all. And it sounds like, as you said, Camelot, or even in a far less creepy way, the Wavelsburg Castle that the SS created in Germany. So, why did he build this castle? Harry believed modern society had lost its way. Too much selfishness, and there was too little honor. So he founded a group called the Knights of the Golden Trail that came out of the Boy Scout troop he ran. It's a chivalric brotherhood sworn to live by medieval codes of conduct.
Now, just to be clear, the Knights of the Golden Trail aren't related to the international or national Boy Scouts, right? Uh,
No,
but the ideas, I think, translated and crossed over. Anyhow, the rules were quite strict. Uphold honesty, loyalty, courtesy, and defend Christian virtue. As a matter of fact, the Ten Commandments was their guidepost. He wanted men to live like true knights. The castle was their headquarters, a place to preserve these ideals.
Certainly a noble principle. Now, when you visit the castle today, there's one detail that often unsettles visitors. On the grounds, you'll see things that look like grave sites, rectangular stone markers that resemble the marking of burial plots.
Yeah, and that was a way that it was done in a lot of different places, reminiscent of what they have in New Orleans and some other medieval sites. So, but the big question here, are there actually bodies buried there? Officially, no. They're said to be symbolic, memorials or decorative touches, Harry included, to give the castle its medieval character.
While I certainly don't know, it sounds that way, but the sight of these grave looking objects, especially under the moonlight, sparks whispers. Some believe or say that Harry might have buried his fellow knights or even enemies. Others believe the markers symbolize Harry's own wish to be buried as the eternal guardian of the castle he created.
In fact, when Harry died in 1981, his ashes were interred at the castle. So, in a way, he is still there keeping watch.
That is spooky and beautiful at the same time. Visitors report an eerie presence, footsteps on stone staircases, flickering lights, and the sense of being followed through narrow hallways.
It fits with Harry's lifelong mission. He wanted the castle to be more than just stone. It was a statement, almost a spiritual fortress. If you believe in lingering spirits, it's easy to imagine Harry still patrols his battlements.
I want to believe that. The grave sites, the dungeon, the knight's code etched into stone, all of it creates an atmosphere where history and mystery blur. As a historian, that kind of stuff really turns me on.
And then there's the other half of Loveland's mystery, the Frogman. First sighted in 1955, when a traveling salesman claimed he saw three 4 foot tall frog like creatures by the river. You know, as I was telling Dr. Deneen before we started this podcast, when I heard this myth, a humorous and strange memory came to my mind concerning a children's TV show, The Buster Brown Show, with Andy's gang and a puppet character named Froggie. The children's television series that featured the famous phrase, "Plunk your magic dwanger, Froggie," was Andy's Gang, which originally aired on NBC in the 1950s and 1960s. The character, Froggie the Gremlin, was a mischievous puppet who appeared in a puff of smoke after the host, Andy Devine, or the show's original creator, smiling Ed McConnell, would say, "Plunk your magic dwanger or twanger, Froggie." The Froggie, the gremlin, was a character created, as I said, by smiling Ed McConnell for his earlier radio and TV shows, but he became particularly famous on Andy's Gang after McConnell's death. The iconic "Plunk Your Magic Twanger, Froggie" was used to summon Froggie, who would appear in a cloud of smoke, usually to cause trouble or to interrupt the show's segments. That's according to Quora, and it's about TV. The puppet was rebellious, irreverent character, known for his practical jokes and for humiliating adult characters in the show. But, we should get back to our legend here about the Frogman.
Sure, this guy sounds like an ancestor of Kermit the Frog from the Muppets. But these weren't just frogs. They were upright humanoid with leathery skin, bulging eyes, and one even held a strange rod that emitted sparks.
Then, in 1972, police officers saw something similar. One officer reported a frog shaped being standing on two legs before leaping over a guardrail into the water.
Oh, that almost sounds impossible, but that's where the legend takes off. Was it a mutant, somebody's escaped pet, a hoax, or really something prehistoric?
Okay, let's go ahead and speculate a little bit. The Little Miami River is ancient, carved through Ohio limestone. What if the Frogman isn't just a cryptid? A cryptid is a mythological legend without any proof, but a prehistoric survivor, a relic of an amphibian species that never quite went extinct.
Awe-inspiring. This would be like a living fossil, something akin to the coelacanth in fish or the tunatara in reptiles. A coelacanth is an ancient type of lobe-finned fish, often called a living fossil because it was thought to be extinct for millions of years before it was rediscovered in 1938. It is characterized by unique features like its paired lobe fins that resemble legs, a three-lobed tail, and a hinged skull that allows it to open its mouth much wider. There are two living species, and they are critically endangered. They give birth to live young and are found in deep saltwater environments. The Tunatara was thought to be extinct for millennia. It was a forgotten branch of amphibians that had adapted through evolution to walk upright.
I mean, it's possible, right? Right?
Yeah, almost sounds like science fiction.
Yeah, it does. If you imagine creatures hiding in caves or riverbanks for millennia, surfacing only occasionally, it almost makes some sense, right? Harry's castle sits right on that river. Perhaps the frogman has always been there, a neighbor to the knights of the Golden Trail.
And that raises a very eerie question. Did Harry ever know of them? Did his grave sites or his fortress double as a form of protection against something lurking in the water too dangerous for most people?
Yeah, it's fascinating that Loveland has two enduring legends. A man who built a medieval dream and a creature that belongs to prehistory.
Both are rooted in the same landscape. Both feed the town's identity. The castle embodies chivalric tradition, order, honor, and a link to the medieval past. The Frogman embodies chaos, the unknown, and maybe even evolution's forgotten branches.
And together, they create a tapestry. Loveland isn't just another Ohio town, it's a crossroads of myth.
Beautiful. So the next time you walk the castle ground, pause a minute by those stone markers. Are they just symbolic, or are they the guardians' graves?
And when the night hums with frog calls by the river, imagine one of them rising higher than the rest, a prehistoric survivor watching you from the shadows of Harry's stone walls.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Things You Don't Know. Two mysteries, one town, the Knight's Dream and the Frogman's Secret. Please leave us a like, comment, and tune in again soon. We have many wonderful things coming up.
Yes, indeed. And let us know if you like us to do these investigations on these mysteries. I'd like to hear that too. In the meantime, stay curious and stay watchful by the riverbanks. Okay. For now, goodbye.
So long, folks.